With the media covering up for the left time and time again, when will the right hold them accountable? Also in the news, we have James O'Keefe exposing the mainstream media for making up the climate hoax. And also at the same exact level, we have Project Veritas verifying that Ashlee Biden's diary was truly hers. All of that and more on today's episode.
Facts over tracks, this and that, spitting slow, spitting fast, I could roast, I could gas, think I'm okay at last, but I don't know if that can erase all the past.
If you are more than 10 years old, you can remember a time where all summer long we had riots in the streets, looting in our neighborhoods, and people spitting in the face of our police officers. At the time, the media insisted we called this peaceful protests. Obviously, we can see as clear as day that these riots were anything but peaceful. But now, almost 3 years later, we are still having the same exact problem. Instead, now, the media is calling this a teen takeover because of the fact that they were taking over the streets. They were assaulting their neighborhoods, damaging people's livelihood, and most importantly of all, getting away with it. Which would mean that it's a hostile takeover, also known as an angry mob. Of course, the media cannot tell the truth about this subject because it spent and still spends all of its days making excuses for why people can't control their own life and turn it for the better. The people that were in Chicago this past week looted and ransacked stores, leaving stores empty, and instead of actually using the items that they stole, they broke it outside and then threw it up in the air, which neglects the media's next excuse for this, which was that they needed these things to survive. But this stealing doesn't just affect the store that they were stealing from, but it also affects the employees that can do nothing about this because defending your store is now illegal. Time and time again, the media makes excuses for things that should and are illegal, and instead of holding people accountable, they time and time again show their relentless efforts on making excuses for the people that they are supposed to not be lying to. But with that being said, we're going to be digging into the headlines of the week. Starting off, we actually have a Project Veritas article we have never before seen. Ashlee Biden confirms famed diary is hers, and full story behind the FBI raids on American journalists. Today, Project Veritas published a real story behind Ashlee Biden's diary and personal items. It came into our possession, and subsequent unconstitutional FBI's raids of 3 Veritas journalists. Here, for the first time, they hate the fateful voicemail left on our tip line, as well as the call in which Ashlee herself confirmed the authenticity of the diary and the rest of the full story. So this is on September 3rd, 2020, Veritas tip line. Ashlee Biden was staying in this room and they found her diary. All of her clothes, luggage, pills. The diary is pretty crazy. Ashlee Biden. I am Ashlee Biden. It is my stuff. This is 1 month later and about 5 days later. So let's watch the video here.
What you're about to hear has never been released to the public. This voicemail was left on the Project Veritas tip line on September 3rd, 2020, which led our journalists to investigate the matter of Ashlee Biden's diary, thrusting us into a pivotal moment of history for all of press freedom.
Hi there, I'm calling from Florida. My family, their friend who owns a house down here in Palm Beach, was renting it out. I don't know how, but this is a while back. But anyway, a new renter moved in and Ashlee Biden was staying in this room and they found her diary, all of her clothes, luggage, pills. Anyway, diary is pretty crazy. I think it's worth taking a look at. It's not a joke. It's real. And I'd love to get it into your hands.
After years of public speculation and internal deliberation, we are finally releasing our conversation with Ashlee Biden about her diary and other possessions. They were abandoned and later offered to Project Veritas.
Hi, is this Ashlee Biden?
This is she. How are you?
I'm doing well.
Yeah, I just wanted, so I heard you have a few of my belongings, and so I was going to ask if you could please meet my friend, Eric, who is down in Del Rey. If you could meet him and get this up to him.
There's a diary here. It starts in January. It says, January, at the end of a New York month, I'm sitting on a bed at the I building.
Yeah, so if you could just give everything that you have to Eric, that would be really great.
I don't want to give this to the wrong person. I mean, I want to make sure...
At this point, and I don't mean to... I don't want to have to get Secret Service involved in this, right? Because it's a whole process.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, I am Ashlee Biden. It is my stuff. So if you could just give all of that over, I would really appreciate it. I know you sent a picture to my husband with a camera and a few other things that are mine as well. So that would be really great. Where is a good place for him to meet you?
There's also this bag with luggage tags on it. And so is that bag, because there's all this stuff, is that bag yours too, Ashlee?
Yes, it is.
Shortly after the phone call, this October 16th letter was sent from Project Veritas to Joe Biden.
Okay, so she already said exactly what we were wondering. She said, listen, this stuff is mine. Stop reading my diary. She didn't want her diary being read because of the fact that she exposed her father, because her father is very, very creepy, taking showers with her, disgusting stuff. We discussed Ashlee Biden's diary actually when this was released, because I did have my show going on at the time too. It's over at Rumble because, of course, YouTube would ban this at the time. I'm not going to re-upload this on YouTube because of the fact that YouTube's just going to ban it. So if you do want to watch it, I will link it down in the description below. We did go over the whole entire Ashlee Biden diary. Very disgusting stuff. We actually watched some InfoWars on that stuff because at the time they were doing the best journalism on that case. And Project Veritas itself too. This is when James O'Keefe actually had Project Veritas, so it was a little bit better of a company, but you know, it is what it is. But what the thing is that this diary belonged to her. That's the most important thing. That's all we need to know. This diary belonged to her. And they took steps on verifying all of the stuff with her. And yes, it did turn out that it is her stuff. So all of these people that are saying it's not actually her diary, it is her diary. They read the first paragraph to her and she said, that's definitely my diary. I do not want to get Secret Service over there. Just comply with what I'm saying. So she just tells them right then and there that it's her diary. Okay, there's no question about it. It's her diary. Her father's a creep for taking showers with her. It's disgusting. Moving on to the next article, we actually have a James O'Keefe Media Group article. We have the climate change pandemic predicted by CNN on hidden camera. So, let's watch the video here.
You've read the headlines, you've seen the reports. Climate change, the catastrophic turmoil that we're all facing.
Our focus was to get Trump out of office.
Now, this is when James O'Keefe was over at Project Veritas, because you can see hashtag expose CNN. This was Charlie Chester over at the CNN Technical Director Office.
That's what it was, right? So our next thing is going to be for climate change awareness.
Do you think it's going to be just like a lot of like fear, like climate?
Yeah, fear sells. Fear sells. Climate thing is going to take years, so they'll probably be able to milk that for quite a bit.
And we know, based upon what Charlie Chester at CNN said, that this has been in the works for a long time.
This summer feels like a page torn from the book of Revelation.
President Biden has treated climate change with the urgency it requires.
We really want to pretend these things are normal.
What we're talking about right now is record after record after record after record.
They've already announced in our office that once the public will be open to it, we're going to start focusing mainly on climate like global warming, and like that's going to be our next it's going to be our focus.
What does that look like?
I have a feeling it's just going to be like constantly showing videos of like decline in ice and weather warming up and like the effects it's having on the economy and really talking about.
Maybe you work for an environmental organization or you work for a media organization where you know that they're portraying it as a masquerade. They're striking fear into the hearts of Americans. As Charlie Chester says, that's what it's really about. Well, you can contact us at O'KeefeMediaGroup.com.
Yeah, and I completely agree. I mean, we already knew from from the way that this stuff was going that they need the next hoax. And because of the fact that he is right, fear sells. When you start making people scared, when you start saying, no, you know what, this is the next thing. Yes, we were worried about Trump before, but now we're going to be worried about the weather, something we cannot control whatsoever at all. That's out of people's control. And with the general population scared of the climate changing, which is summer, fall, spring, winter, the seasons that we have here on Earth, that's climate change. Okay, the climate did change during those seasons, okay, which is a perfectly normal thing. Every couple of years, the temperature goes up. Every couple of years, the temperature goes back down. It's so normal. Look at the graphs, look at the data. We can see that in 1944, the temperature was the exact same as it was today. But of course, a year after that, it was lower at 77, and then 84, and then 77, and then 84. It jumps up, and then it jumps back down. It's 100% normal. Just like sometimes in New England, we don't get snow. The next year, we get a blizzard, okay? There's no... Mother Nature does not have a set pattern that she likes to follow. It's just completely random. You have no idea what this year is going to bring. If 1 year is super, super hot, then the next year is going to be super, super cold, or vice versa, or 2 years, and then the super, super cold, and then a super, super hot. It's just crazy because you cannot guess the weather because we're not Mother Nature and we're not God. Okay, at the same exact time in Jesus, we're not God and Jesus. With that being said, we're going to be moving into the media's takes.
No, I'm not a writer.
Okay.
Okay, so getting straight into it, we are starting off with a CNN article. We have a day of legal action in Trump embargo previews a chaotic 2024 election year. Now, I completely agree with this because of the fact that the 2024 election is going to be fulfilled with Donald Trump's court cases, and Donald Trump this and Donald Trump that and this is and the. So I can already tell, and I don't want to jinx anything now. And knock on wood, it does not happen. But the 2024 election looks like it's going to be a referendum on Trump because nobody likes talking about Trump more than Trump. Nobody likes talking bad about Trump other than Joe Biden. So if people are constantly talking about Trump, then it's going to become a referendum on Donald Trump. But like we can see in 2016, the reason why he won was because of the fact that he made the referendum on Hillary Clinton in her emails, and the fact that he said that he was going to lock her up, in which he did not do, which is a big failure on his end, but it's also a failure of the congressmen and women inside of Congress that did not act, and they just had empty promises held at the Trump White House. But let's see what CNN actually talks about this here. We have a whirl of developments in the court of cases in 4 separate cities encapsulate the vast legal quagmire swamping Donald Trump and threatening to overwhelm the entire 2024 presidential election. But Monday's hectic lawyering was just a tame preview of the next year, when the ex-president and current Republican frontrunner may be constantly shuttling between courtroom criminal trials and campaign trail. Okay, so this is the thing though. It's not Trump's fault that he's in all of this mess. Yes, we could already see, but he could have acted more like they were watching him, because they were watching him. So he has court cases in March all the way through May, all the way from May through June and July, and then there's nothing in September and October, and then he has some more in November of 2024. So it's just jam-packed full of court cases for Trump, and we can actually see, yes, I mean, like I just said, it's not fully his fault, but he could have acted more, reserved. He could have acted more like they were watching him, because they were watching him for any potential stuff that they can get him into court for. And if I knew that people were watching me with a hawk eye, then I would not misdo anything. So actually, at the same exact time, we can see all of the dates that he's going to court, yes. but also all of the lawyers he has to get. And yes, he's a millionaire. He's a billionaire. He can afford his own court cases. Why is he using the PAC, the Freedom PAC, that he says he's going to be using for ballot harvesting for the election? Why is he using this money for his personal attorney fees, his personal attorney, total cost? So what he should be doing is using his personal money for that, and then his campaign money that people are donating to, the regular people like you and I, the people that are donating to this on a daily basis for his ballot harvesting, as what he said that he's going to do. So already this year, he spent $40 million from this PAC, the Freedom PAC, that he has, and he's asked for a refund from campaigns that the PAC has donated to. So that's ultra, ultra cheap. They're cheaping out because of the fact that they need to pay all of Donald Trump's bills, which is a sad day because Donald Trump can pay his own bills. Use that for campaign money, and use your personal money for your personal money, okay? That's how we can keep things separate, and it'll be a lot easier, so you have access to a lot more money for your campaign. Your campaign matters more. Now, moving on to the next article, we actually have an MSNBC article. We have slitting throats. DeSantis copies Trump's fantasies of violence. The audience for conservative media imbibes the rhetoric of violence every day, and so does MSNBC. Look at 2020. Anyone can suggest shrinking the federal government and laying off workers who make it run to really grab the attention of the Republican primary electorate. You have to paint a more lurid picture, or so Florida Governor Ron DeSantis seemed to think when he recently described his plans of downsizing the bureaucracy by saying, quote, "We're going to start by slitting throats on day one." Okay, so just because he used an expression, now he's violent? What? Just like how I say break a leg right before a show. That does not mean that I want you to break a leg. It's not to take the stuff that he's saying literally, but it's the aspect of the fact that this is a saying. Like what? Like almost everyone DeSantis says and does as a candidate, the comment was uttered with one eye on Donald Trump in the Donald Trump era. That kind of statement is no longer surprising. Innovations of violence, both metaphorical and literal, have become so common among the Republican politicians, and DeSantis is only catching up to what's going on around him. Okay, so what do you mean metaphorical and literal? Donald Trump did not hurt a fly. So what are you talking about? The rhetoric of the contemporary right is saturated with fantasies of violence against perceived enemies. While most of it remains in the realm of fantasy, we should never be surprised when it erupts into reality. When. Okay, so why would you say both metaphysical and literal when this never happened? What are you talking about, MSNBC? Such rhetoric began with Trump. Far-right movements the world over have long valorized violence against foreigners, racial and ethnic outgroups, and political opponents. But in modern American politics, Trump took it from the fringe to the mainstream, including the Republican elite. Running in 2016, he would regularly tell crowds about the brutality he longed to inflict on liberals, particularly protesters. Quote, "I like to punch him in the face," he said about one. His supporters thrilled at these threats, according to MSNBC, I guess. "We all want to punch somebody in the face, and he says it all for all of us." Okay, so we need context here. You're just going to say a statement and then just pretend as if there's no context. Trump superfans came to imagine their draft-dodging champion as a welder of death and destruction on t-shirts and flags and countless internet memes. Wow, internet memes are not real life. You're so stupid, MSNBC. They reconfigure the out-of-shape 77-year-old as a warrior riding into battle, muscles ripping, as he holds a sword or an AR-15 aloft. Other Republicans, seeing Trump receive the kind of admiration they can only dream of, have followed suit in playing in the darkest violent impulses they know their followers harbor. Okay, so just because we made Trump look like a god, in like a god-shaped body, I should say, just because we made him look like that and riding into war, does not mean that we want him to be violent. That doesn't make any sense. That's an internet meme. You're taking this way too literal. It's like the grandfather. You show them a video, and then they have a whole entire lecture on that video that you showed them because they're taking everything in the video seriously. The audience for conservative media imbibes the rhetoric of violence every day. Michael Savage, one of the most widely heard radio hosts in the country, says that because of LGBTQ acceptance and other perceived left-wing excuses, quote, I will pick up arms. I can't take it anymore. Right-wing media star. Okay, so he should sue for defamation because I can almost guarantee you that that is not the complete statement. So you're telling me that Michael Savage is going to pick up arms and kill LGBTQ. That's the connection MSNBC is trying to make here. Michael Savage, lawyer up, sue them for defamation, cease and desist right now. A popular far-right podcaster tells his listeners that if the founding fathers were alive today, they would violently overthrow the American government. Of course they would. They would be disappointed. Look at how much we get taxed. They had a fight, and they had a whole entire civil war, and that made the independence. They overthrew the British government over tea. Now, yes, obviously that wasn't all of it, but it can be summed up in that was the last pick, because of tax on tea. Because of the fact that their tea went up in prices, only if they were alive today. You wake up in the morning, the lights that I have on in the studio, I'm being taxed on. This device right here, when I bought my laptop, my iPad right here, I pay tax on it. When I bought this remote for the TV that I have right here for my monitor, I pay tax on it. When I bought everything in the studio, I pay tax on it. When I want to drink water, I pay tax on that. When I want to have electric, I pay tax on that. Water, tax on that. Gas, tax on that. I want to drive a car, I pay tax on that. I also pay tax on it every single year. I pay tax on the insurance that I have to pay for my car. I also have to pay tax when I first buy the car. And I also have to pay tax on the gas that I get for my car. So only if they saw the amount of tax that we are actually paying now, they would violently overthrow, because that's what happened with the British government. Meanwhile, it had become a de rigueur for right-wing members of Congress to send out Christmas cards with the whole family, even kids barely old enough to tie their own shoes, posing proudly holding military-style rifles, okay? And just because they can protect their family does not mean that it's a bad family. Kyle Rittenhouse, who killed 2 people, no, okay, so he should sue for defamation too, because he actually was presumed not guilty in both of those cases, because he's not in jail right now. So Kyle Rittenhouse, sue MSNBC. Wisconsin, before he was old enough to vote, was feted at Mar-a-Lago and has given frowning interviews on Fox News. Daniel Penny, charged with manslaughter in the death of Jordan Neely on the New York subway car. Okay, charged. Okay, so because of the fact that he had self-defense and he protected his fellow passengers, which they said thank you to him after the fact, because this Jordan Neely was known to be a violent person on the subway trains in New York. MSNBC, you're disgusting right now. Wherever vignetism looks like a tool to the right can use against the left, it will be venerated and even turned into law. Republican legislators have passed laws shielding people who mow down protesters with cars from civil liability. Please name one. Because if you're not doing this for self-defense, it's not self-defense. So yes, you should go to jail for mowing down protesters. But also at the same exact time, these protesters, what were they doing? Were they rioting on the streets, catching things on fire? So this person just had to escape, or else his car would be caught on fire as well? Or was he just standing there and all of a sudden he saw a big group of protesters and he decided to run them over? I presume it was the latter, because the former does not make any sense. And country star Jason Aldean, single, tried that in a small town, imagines bringing their criminality to rural areas and being met with a violent response. Of course, because if you have a violent protester outside of your house, you're going to have violent responses to this protester. When this is what rank and file conservatives hear every other day, hour after hour, are we surprised when the fantasy of violence turns into actual violence? What's the connection you're trying to make? Jordan Aldean, along with all the other people I mentioned, Sue MSNBC for defamation. Oh my god, I would. Oh my god, I'll never miss the opportunity. January 6, 2021 wasn't an abomination. It was a natural response to everything Trump supporters have been told in the days and months before, and are still being told to this day. Oh, so stupid. January 6th, the worst day ever. I'm stupid, MSNBC. I can't. This is why I can't read MSNBC articles and CNN articles for long, because I just get too annoyed. I just get too annoyed with them. Now, we're going to be moving into the next article. We actually have a Daily Wire article. We have Weekend Media Wrap, Volume 3. What you miss if you are not glued to the Sunday shows. Every Sunday morning, legacy media outlets are taken over by elected officials, aspiring elected officials, administration insiders, and the usual collection of talking heads, all of whom are there to discuss specific policies, push talking points, or simply promote their campaign. For those who don't spend their Sunday mornings glued to their television and their Sunday afternoons attempting to unravel a full week's worth of network and cable news media spin, the Daily Wire has compiled a short summary of what you may have missed. ABC News this week. ABC News anchor George Stephanopoulos, a veteran of a former President Bill Clinton's White House, spoke with North Dakota Governor and GOP presidential hopeful Doug Burgum on Sunday morning's broadcast of this week. But he spent most of the allotted time asking Burgum questions about the current front-runner, former President Donald Trump. Okay, so he's stupid. Despite initially informing Burgum that they would talk about his campaign and the issues he wanted to discuss, Stephanopoulos proceeded to pepper him with questions about Trump and the most recent indictments against him. Quote, he's facing 3 felony indictments. Have you read the indictments? And what is your reaction to them? Stephanopoulos asked, and then later, quote, do you have an opinion on the fact that President Donald Trump tried to overturn the election as alleged in the indictment this week by Special Counsel Prosecutor Smith? Stephanopoulos even brought former Vice President Mike Pence, who has also announced a bid for the 2024 Republican presidential nomination, into the conversation by asking, quote, why was Donald Trump wrong when he pressured Mike Pence not to certify? Was Mike Pence right when he did certify? Though, at all, Burgum argued that the people he had spoken to on the campaign trail were not asking about Trump. Rather, they wanted to know what it was going to address the issues they face every day, like inflation. Quote, presidential campaigns should be about the future, not the past, he said. CBS News Face the Nation. Rep. Dean Phillips, Democrat from Michigan, said on Sunday that he had not yet decided whether he planned to mount a primary challenge against incumbent President Joe Biden, but he did make it clear that he believed someone should. Phillips told CBS Major Garrett that Biden could beat Trump if he came to it, but argued that the American people deserve to see Biden fight for the nomination rather than simply having it handed to him. Quote, so, my call is, to those who are well-positioned, well-prepared, have good character and competency, they know who they are, to jump in, because Democrats in the country need competition, he said. Phillips also took aim at Robert F. Kennedy Jr., who had recently begun a campaign for the Democratic nomination. He claimed that he didn't believe the nephew of late President JFK even belonged in the same party. Not from the positions he's been taking, no, Phillips said. Okay, so you can be a Democrat and have a head screwed on tight. CNN State of the Union. Former Vice President Mike Pence, who is vying against his former boss and several others for the Republican nomination, joined State of the Union host Dana Bash on CNN to discuss, among other things, Trump. One press presented with Trump's claim that he was, quote, too honest. Pence shrugged it off. Quote, I've been called worse, he said. NBC News Meet the Press. NBC's Chuck Todd broke down Americans' feelings on the polarization of major corporations, such as Bud Light, Target, and others, and determined that more than half the country is unimpressed by corporations getting preachy. According to the data Todd presented, some 60% felt as though it was inappropriate for corporations to wade into political and social issues publicly. That number was slightly higher, 71%, among Republicans, and nearly half of those surveyed said that they had made a decision to boycott a company or brand over politics. Fox News Sunday. Rep. Jake Australos, Democrat from Massachusetts, joined Fox News Sunday anchor Shannon Bream to discuss President Biden's embattled son Hunter Biden. And he immediately attempted to turn the tables on Republicans and Donald Trump. Bream pointed to another case in which former Baltimore Police Commissioner Darrell D'Souza had faced harsher consequences for similar tax charges despite owning much less than Hunter did. Archon Kloss agreed that if Hunter Biden was guilty of a crime, he should face the consequences. And then he immediately claimed, first, that Republicans were unwilling to say the same about Donald Trump, and second, that Donald Trump had committed worse crimes than the president's son. Which ones? Let's see this in court, because this is not going to go over well because of the fact that there's only one case, maybe two cases, maybe the case in Georgia that has any, maybe there's something in the other cases, but it's not going to pass. For our former president, no. But the case that he had the documents, the classified documents case, is the most likely to result in something. Because he blatantly said in an interview that it was a classified document and he just did not have the time to bring the classified documents back. Bream pushed back, reminding Archon Kloss that Hunter Biden was the topic at hand in presenting some of the evidence that suggested that his father had both been involved in influence peddling. Quote, it is smoke that Republicans are trying to gin up, and there's no MSNBC inside with Jen Psaki, former White House press secretary, I said Psaki, I can't, who served in former President Barack Obama's administration in addition to Biden's, spent a few minutes of her MSNBC show inside with Jen Psaki. Insisting that there was nothing political about the repeated efforts to damage, destroy, or imprison Trump. Of course, Jen Psaki is not going to notice that. Quote, this is ultimately not about politics. It's not about Joe Biden, and it's not about the Republican or Democratic Party. It's about a coordinated attempt to upend democracy itself by a sitting president, she claimed. Oh, Jen Psaki, I can't. Okay, so first of all, Jen Psaki, we already knew that you were stupid. You didn't have to prove it. That's what I have to say to her. Moving on to the next article, we actually have another Daily Wire article. We have Rogan blasts Biden. Quote, been a goof his whole effing career. He's so full of shit. Podcast giant Joe Rogan slammed President Joe Biden during a recent broadcast of his show over allegations of corruption that he faces over his alleged involvement in his son's business deals. Quote, Joe Biden's been such a goof his whole entire effing career. He's always been a goof, he said. He's been caught lying so many times. He's so full of shit. There's so much evidence that he's corrupt. Just undeniable evidence of corruption and stuff with him and his son. And then the guy who just testified that was business partners with Hunter, who talked about all the different things that Joe was involved in, it's effing undeniable. And the fact that the mainstream media news, is ignoring this, except for right-wing media, is effing crazy, he continued. Rogan also took aim at the investigations into former President Donald Trump by saying that it was, quote, like the actions of a banana republic. Quote, you can't take your political rival and arrest him. And especially, you charge him in the things like you're effing guilty of. Like that. Like the documents, like the classified documents. Biden's guilty of the exact same issue, Rogan said. Trump, 77, faces criminal charges in 2 federal cases, one involving his handling of classified material and one involving his alleged efforts to overturn the 2020 election. The former president also faces a criminal case from the Manhattan District Attorney's Office and may be charged in the coming days by Fulton County District Attorney's Office over his alleged efforts to overturn the 2020 election. Yeah, and I completely agree. But where was this for Joe Rogan 2 years ago? Joe Rogan, you want to say now because obviously it's not so politically damaging, not just politically, but it's not so damaging. And I think now that he knows, I mean, this is to rebut what I just said, but I can see both sides. I can see that he now knows that Spotify is not going to kick him off. So, of course, he's going to sit here and, like, blur the lines a little bit and say, listen, this is what I really feel. It's annoying. Yes, I know. But I completely agree with him there. I mean, Joe Rogan, he's still a liberal. There's a difference between a liberal and a leftist. I can agree with a liberal. I cannot agree with a leftist. They're just way too far. But we do have another article. Here we have a Breitbart article. We have a report. Biden to ask for another Ukraine aid package north of aid package. North of $10 billion, of course, because Zelensky needs some more money for his wife to go to France to purchase some more Gucci and Louis Vuitton. President Joe Biden would soon ask Congress for a Ukrainian aid package that could exceed $10 billion, a report released Tuesday found. They reported that Ukrainian aid battle would resume when Congress returns from recess. The upcoming request, which could be north of $10 billion, follows as Ukraine continues its slow-moving counteroffensive against Russia, and America and other NATO countries have pledged support for Ukraine. The Army's accusation chief told reporters on Monday that the Department of Defense was working on a funding package for lawmakers to consider. The package would be used to replenish American weapons stockpiles, which have been depleted over providing munitions to Ukraine's protracted conflict with Russia. The United States has provided more than $110 billion in aid to Ukraine even as voters go sour on the prospect of even more taxpayer dollars being spent to aid to Kyiv regime. House Speaker Kevin McCarthy, Republican from California, has said that any additional Ukrainian funding should have to go through the regular order or the appropriation process and not the supplemental package. 70 House Republicans voted to cut off the funding for Ukraine in July, making the expected Ukrainian aid battle highly contagious. In contrast, the Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell, Republican from Kentucky, has slammed the current defense cap set by the Fiscal Responsibility Act. The debt ceiling deal struck by McCarthy and Biden has pushed a robust aid package to Ukraine. A Ukraine aid package would also require generous floor time, as both chambers of Congress needs to pass appropriations bills to avoid a government shutdown by the end of September. Kelly, a senior for the Quincy Institute for Responsible Statecraft, conceded that the poll does not bond well for Biden. The poll also does not bond well for Biden handling of major foreign policy issues. Some 53% disapprove of how he's handling the war in Ukraine, 56% of people disapprove, and 57% disapprove of how he is handling the relationship with China. And I completely agree. I mean, he's not handling any of these foreign issues the correct way whatsoever, and it's disgusting. And yes, he's sending all of our money to foreign countries, even though we need this money here. We need to stop spending money and put it towards our debts. Our debt is rising every single day, and it's sad that we're not doing anything to pay it off. With that being said, we're going to end off this video here. If you did like this episode, please like and subscribe down below because I do post new episodes of the show every single Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Thank you all for watching, and I hope they have a great rest of your day. The Demetrius Arijo Show is copyright 2023, Arijo Studios. Thank you all for watching, and I hope they have a great rest of your day. Bye.